It was not yet Christmas, but the cold had already begun to speak. It spoke in the grass first, stiff beneath the boot, then in the kettle, slower to sing, and finally in the breath, white and careful, as if even the air did not wish to waste itself. The camp lay just beyond the bend of the old drove road, tucked where the firs leaned together and the land dipped low enough to hide a fire from passing eyes. There were places like that in Scotland, not on any map, not named aloud, but known all the same, known by the ones who had learned to read the ground the way others read paper. Willow knew it. She had chosen this hollow before the light left the sky, while there was still enough day to see the shape of shelter. She moved without hurry, but nothing about her was slow. Every step had meaning. Every decision had been made 100 winters before, and only repeated now because it still worked. Roy set the stones. He crouched and placed them one by one, not building high, not making a show of it, only enough to cradle the fire and keep the wind from biting straight through. His hands were cracked from work and weather, the skin split fine as old rope, but they were steady. Men like him did not complain much. They saved their words for when words could do something. Drew gathered kindling from the edge of the trees, small sticks, dry bark, fallen pieces that snapped clean, the kind that would take a spark without fuss. Drew's cheeks were red already, not from crying, never that. From the cold, finding the soft places first. The child moved with that quiet attention children had when they were raised around fire and silence, not frightened, just aware. When the kettle finally began its thin, patient hiss, Willow poured water into 3 tin cups. No sugar, no milk, nothing to sweeten it, but the fact it was warm. They sat close enough to share heat, far enough not to crowd the flame. The smoke rose straight for a moment, then drifted sideways, catching in the branches above like a grey scarf. Roy stared into the coals, not seeing them. "A hard year," he said at last. Willow nodded once, as if the sentence had been spoken long ago and was only arriving now. "Aye," she answered, "but they all are, till you look back." Drew did not speak. Drew listened. That was the thing about a camp on the road. The words mattered, but the spaces between them mattered more. The quiet told you what was really happening. The quiet told you what people were trying not to say. There had been less work this season. Doors closed quicker, faces turned away sooner. A job promised in daylight could vanish by dusk, like fog when the wind shifted. Still, Willow did not let the camp feel desperate. She kept order. She kept rhythm. She laid out the blanket neat, as if it were a proper bed in a proper house. She placed the pan where it belonged. She folded the cloths. She kept the small things right, because when the small things stayed right, the big things did not swallow you whole. And when Roy went to fetch more wood, Willow reached into her bag and checked a bundle wrapped in cloth. A small thing, tied tight. Drew saw it. Not directly. Willow's hands were clever. Her movements were made to keep questions away, but Drew saw the shape of it, the care in it, the way Willow's fingers rested a second longer than they needed to. "For Christmas," Willow said, catching the child's gaze without accusation. Drew looked back at the fire, as if that was all that mattered. But the words lodged in the air like a promise. For a while they sat and let the warmth do its work. Roy came back with wood. The fire brightened again. The light danced on their faces. It made them look like they belonged to something older than the night. Beyond the trees, the town lay not far off. You could see its glow in the low clouds, a smear of yellow, like a lantern behind dirty glass. It was close enough to tempt you, close enough to make you think you could just step into it and be safe. But Willow had lived too long to trust light that didn't come with welcome. Roy watched it too. "We could go in tomorrow," he said, as if speaking softly might make the idea kinder. "Try for a bit work, a bit food." Willow did not answer straight away. Instead, she stirred the fire with a stick, gently, like waking something sleeping. "There's folk in there that would help," she said, "and folk in there that would rather we weren't seen at all." Roy's jaw tightened. He looked away. Drew's eyes followed the sparks as they rose and vanished. Willow leaned closer, not to Roy, but to Drew. "Listen to me," she said low. "Cold is honest. It tells you what it is. It doesn't pretend." Drew nodded once. "And remember this," Willow added. "A camp is not poor just because it's small. A fire is not weak just because it's quiet." Roy glanced at her then. Something softened in his face, something like relief or shame, or both. Night settled fully. The frost crept in around the edges of the hollow, whitening the grass like sifted flour. It climbed the stones. It silvered the fallen branches. It made the world look clean while it tried to take the heat away. Drew shifted closer to Willow. Roy threw on one more piece of wood. The fire answered, not loudly, not proudly, just enough. And in the hush that followed, Willow reached again for the cloth bundle. Not to open it, only to make sure it was still there, still safe, still waiting. Because Christmas was coming. And on the road, you didn't measure Christmas by what you bought. You measured it by what you kept, by what you shared, by what you refused to let winter take. Outside the hollow, the wind moved through the trees like a slow breath, and the frost, sharp and patient, listened.